Let's analyze the situation, investigate the motivation, and utilize the inspiration and discover the soul of us. The soul of us.
Welcome. Good evening, good evening. Everybody, welcome to the Soul of Us podcast, Ep.6. Streaming live right now on Facebook and Instagram. Just check us out whenever you see, that notification pop up. Most times it's gonna be on Friday, but we post every day some type of inspiration, some type of motivation for your emotional wellness, for your spiritual wellness, for your mental wellness. We are here to break these destructive cycles. So, with the Soul of Us podcast, we have been addressing different topics that affect our emotional wellness or our mental wellness. And we appreciate you guys checking in each week. Each week, we appreciate you guys chiming in, giving your comments, showing your love, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on Facebook. And I know that you guys are rocking with us because when I put out these posts, the daily inspiration or the daily motivation, you guys really resonate with it. I know it's deep information. You're not used to hearing it. It's challenging information, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to challenge the norm, right? And I'm trying to bring it out, you guys. I'm trying to bring that positivity out of you guys, trying to help you guys see life in a different way. Whereas though you can get your needs met emotionally, physically, and live the best life possible. And not just because you have material success, but you have an internal success. You have an internal motivation, right? So, Soul of Us podcast, we here with you guys. Appreciate you guys for checking in with us. You know what I'm saying? Like, subscribe, share the live, and tune in with us every Friday. Soul of Us bringing you a new episode. Or look for one of our posts. So, just a little recap, like we normally do each week with the Soul of Us podcast. So last week we talked about racism and the impact of racism on our emotional wellness. So that was a very deep topic. We're going to touch that topic again, not right now, but we're going to come back to it. But we definitely outlined how racism can shape our reality, can cause trauma, emotional trauma, physical trauma that shapes how we interact with the world, shapes how the world interacts with us, how we see the world. So we want to continue with that theme of how society and the different things that go on in society, how these things can impact us on an emotional wellness level. So, with that being said, today's topic is poverty and addiction. Poverty and addiction, right? So, when we think of poverty, what's the first thing that we think of that comes to mind, right? What's the first thing that comes to mind when we think of poverty? Well, when I think of poverty, I think of, you know, I think of, you know, people not having access. I think of crime. I think of blight. Uh, yeah, I think of police. I think of uh, corruption. Gang. I just think a lot of different things would come to mind when I think of poverty. And I've talked about addiction before. Addiction was one of those things that when I did the Wellness Talk series on Facebook, I did a two-part series on addiction. And addiction is a major impact on society. And we're not just talking about drug addiction. Any type of addiction can be a major impact on our social and emotional wellness, right? So, when we start to talk about poverty, I really wanted to just talk about, poverty as it, pertains to us as a people. So I had this little diagram um, that, I was looking at, and it just started to help me formulate my thoughts around where I wanted to start with poverty and how it impacts us, right? So, most times we when we think of poverty, you know, we it's just one of those things that we see all the films, we hear all the films, right? But that doesn't necessarily depict who and what poverty really is, right? So poverty is, lack of education, lack of political structure, lack of access to food and water, um, crime, high crime, poverty areas. You know, it could be inherited, meaning the people in poverty could be generational. Their mother's mother was in poverty. Their mother's mother had, a low economic status due to lack of education. Um, these are the things when we start thinking about poverty, how poverty starts, where poverty comes from, right? So, you know, we got to be able to see poverty in a way that taking a step outside of it and not normalizing it, not just saying, okay, yeah, poverty is just a part of life. No, it's not. Poverty has very bad effects on our people. And until we as a whole people, not just people who are in poverty, whether it's black, white, Asian, until we as a whole people start to see that poverty is a, is very has a very negative impact on us, and we have to work together to remedy this problem. Poverty is not just going to go away because poverty is and some researchers have said it's like a disease. It can change your chemical makeup, your function, your brain function. You witnessing violence all the time. You being exposed to, drugs and um, moral injury that comes along with witnessing all of these, maladaptive behaviors. So we got to really dive deep into our own perspective of how we relate or how we, look at poverty, because poverty is something that it's not going to go away just because you give somebody a couple dollars, or it's not going to go away just because you know you donated $1,000, or you donate $10,000, or you volunteer, or simple quick fix. This system that we live in that creates for these this that creates for our our destruction, like, because poverty really puts our people in a place of emotional harm. Because when you don't have the vision, when you don't have the support, when you don't have the knowledge to go forth, meaning you may have never seen someone graduate from college, you may have never seen someone maintain a job, you may have never seen someone actually emotionally express themselves in a healthy way. These are the things that are associated with poverty, right? And poverty doesn't just go away because we know and understand that trauma begets trauma. Trauma hurt people. And that's why poverty, we have to look at it like, man, well, how can we address this? How can we, you know, make, a difference, right? But the only way we can make a difference is first to educate ourselves, is to have an understanding of what poverty is. How does it start? Right? How does it occur? And in life, we have to take a pause all the time. You got to pause for the cause. Pause for the cause. And if you're not pausing for the cause, are you being mindful in the moment? Are you being mindful in the moment? Are you giving your all to the moment? So, it's that's what we're asking. Like, give your all to the moment. Pause for the cause. When you see that person on the side of the street and you know, they're giving you that look of, I need something. You have it. Think about how they got there. Let's be more empathetic. Let's look at life through the lenses of empathy. And the only way to do that is to put ourselves in the shoes of others, right? So, not just saying, hey, yeah, you're a poor person, but how did that poverty begin? Is it lack of access to jobs? Is it lack of access to education? Is it, what is it? What is it? So, we have to look at those things so that we can actually, make a difference in people's lives. Make a difference. Because right now, we're not making a difference in each other's lives because we don't understand what's going on. We have no understanding of what's going on. We don't really give time because, like I said, most people are numb to the situation. We think, well, my mama, if she lived to 96, if it was good for her, that's okay for me. And it's like, no, that's not okay. That's not okay. Like, it's not okay at all for you to accept the conditions of your parents or to accept the conditions of, just pain and struggle. We have to have a fight, a want for more. But I know and understand, as we've talked in the previous, is that a lot of these things are caused by things that may be out of our control, but we can apply pressure in certain things. So racism, you know, traumatic experiences, um, let's see, you know, lack of education. These are things that we may not be able to control, but we can actually understand what are we going through, why are we going through these things, and then start to make better decisions. So everything that we are going through, right? Everything that we're going through has a certain impact on you. So when we start talking about social emotional learning, being self aware, being socially aware, being able to regulate yourself, right? Emotionally regulate yourself, physically regulate yourself, being able to make good decisions, responsible decisions, and being able to relationship build. So, all of these things we're talking about poverty, right? Poverty impacts our ability to be emotionally literate, meaning our ability to regulate ourselves, be able to read, identify, label our emotions in a healthy way, to be able to integrate them and move out in a healthy way. Life, when untapped, when we don't address trauma as trauma, it becomes its most dangerous state. We become negative, and we don't even see ourselves as negative. We don't even see ourselves as contributing to the destructive cycle. Or maybe we do, right? And we just don't know what to do to change it. So today we're talking about how poverty contributes to that. So for me, I grew up, right? I'm from North Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? So my mom, was a single mom when I was born, right? She was a single mother. She had two kids. My brother is about 11 years older than me. So, you know, growing up, mom had a teenager and a youngin she had to take care of. And we were in North Philadelphia during the 90s. This was prior to her getting married. Because I didn't move out of so-called poverty, like real poverty until I was like 8, like 7 or 8, and we moved to a budding neighborhood that eventually went down due to mentality. And we're going to talk about that, like how poverty impacts our mentality, poverty and addiction. And, for me, again, I was born to a single mother with two kids. And my uncle, right? My uncle was addicted to, crack cocaine. So growing up, I witnessed so much as a child, whether it was, you know, my brother being in the streets, being attacked, like, you know, they tried to rob him, take his Jordans, take his leather jacket, or him fighting in school, or the fact that I lost my godfather, you know, to gun violence, you know what I'm saying? watching my uncle run the streets. These things will impact me in a crazy way. When I was 7 years old, I was older than I actually was due to the trauma, due to living in poverty. So it actually put me in a way. It put me in a perspective where I had to grow up super fast. But I didn't know how to express myself. I didn't know how to maintain relations, but I grew up because I knew how to get over. I knew how to lie. You know, I knew how to get what I want from people because I had watched people, do those types of things. And I had been exposed to so much violence, um, so much just maladaptive behavior. I had become morally injured, and I didn't know growing up how that would impact me until I got older and I started to see the different behaviors. Like, man, this is why you do what you do because of what you've grown up in, what you've seen. And that's why, people living in poverty, we don't have to live like we live. Poverty doesn't have to be something that, means you don't have respect or you're not clean or, you're a second class citizen. It could literally mean you just don't have, the resources, but that doesn't have to change your soul. And what we see is we see parents, we see families that are, generational curses being passed down. Where, like, for me, keep talking about myself. I was the first male in my family in 3 generations to graduate high school. Like my older brother, my uncle, they didn't graduate conventional high school. They didn't go through high school. My grandfather, the urban legend is that, they was poor and they was trying to figure it out. And he at 14, because of the struggle, he went into the military. He joined the military at 14 years old. Like, because that was the only way he was going to be able to support himself and his family. And he made something of it, and that's the other side of poverty where coming from, nothing can build a fire within you where you really are motivated to get something, to be somebody, to get somewhere. But that's the exception to the rule as we see, because we see a lot of people who see, like I talked about last episode, is they've been beat down for so long. They've been beat down for so long that, you know, they really have no motivation. They don't want to fight or try. They accept the conditions, or they've been morally injured so much that they think what they're doing is okay. It's okay to live on what I'm living on. It's okay to just be getting by. This is all right. I've witnessed it. Those people were fine. They had a good life. In my eyes, it's okay. Not knowing that they're doing major harm to their children, not knowing that they're doing major harm to themselves emotionally. Because when we put ourselves in environments full of crime and we're numb to it, it's still having a major impact on you. When you put yourself in an environment where people are abusing each other emotionally, physically, you know, even because you're numb to it, it's still gonna have a major impact on you. And that's what we get, we get families where now our love language is yelling. Our love language is physical abuse. Our love language, and this ain't love language. It's not love language at all. It's just the way we've been adapted. We've adapted to what's going on, right? So we got to be able to, what I'm saying, get our, get our perspectives together where we can actually, understand that our families are going through these things, right? Poverty is at the foundation of it. Addiction is at the foundation of it. But the situation is impacting our emotional wellness, which is also impacting our level of intelligence, our level ability to be rational, our ability to just interact in a healthy way. So we have to be able to just look at our actions, being self-aware, because poverty, man, again, poverty is something that it runs across our news streams as a title, a headline, and we see it. We see donate a quarter or $1 a day. And, what I'm saying? It's just, we're fighting for our own. And when we get our own, we move into our neighborhoods and we move up and we move out, right? And no longer do we associate with those type of people, or no longer do we want to be in those unsafe environments. We don't do that anymore, right? Because it's been so harmful. But, that's not the solution. The solution isn't to move up and move out. The solution is to help, is to remedy this. But the remedy to remedy these things, we have to sit back and, as an individual, how can I contribute? How can I change what's going on in my own environment, right? So if you come from a family that doesn't communicate, just by you communicating, you can start to break down those generational curses, that poverty, that addiction, that these things have created for you guys, right? You starting to see that, nah, this is not how I want to live. This is not who I want to be. But what does it look like to be that person? Okay, does that mean I need to read more? Standing out and standing up for yourself, creating firm boundaries, because poverty can apply pressure, right? The fact when you come from something so small, or when you come from something without, that lacks, right? When you do have, or you have a big this, envy and jealousy and pettiness can start to rear its ugly head, because poverty affects our emotional wellness. So, we don't see things through the lenses of love and positivity. We wouldn't be happy for you when I'm sad and I'm upset because of my own circumstances, because I'm really not okay with how my life looks. So poverty puts those lenses, that fog, on us, right? That crabs in the barrel mentality, where now we don't love ourselves or love people around us, and we're not grateful for life. The mere fact that we woke up this morning, the mere fact that we were able to do the things that we want to do, put on the shoes that you want, live the life, eat the breakfast that you want. We're not able to be grateful because the level of negativity that we live in, it just, it clouds our vision. It clouds our vision, right? And it stunts our growth. It stunts our ability to connect with each other. So, we got to start to put some respect on trauma's name. And trauma is very dynamic, very dynamic. So when you talk about addiction, it's not to be taken lightly, because it doesn't just impact that person, it impacts a family, it impacts a community. When we look around and you have a mother who's having children, who's being exposed to her lifestyle, right? So instead of learning the ABCs, they're learning how to run down there and get mama her stuff. Instead of learning how to count by fives, they learning how to, they watching mama or they watching dad do what they do, whether it's selling drugs or selling their body, or any type of destruction. They learning these things at an early age, and and if they see their parents addicted to it, why you think so many children want to do all of the things the street life come with, whether it's toting a gun, whether it's, smoking and drinking, what I'm saying? Whatever it is, because that's what they see. They see adults addicted to the lifestyle, clubbing, partying, you know, you know, the pills, the drink. They see it. And repetition rules the mind. So what we got is children that's already maybe exposed to poverty. So lack of education, lack of access to resources, um, illness, health issues, you know, and then that's the environment, right? Then we got the people living in the environment, even impacting each other even further, where you got addiction on top of that, where you got robbing, stealing, killing, right? You got sexual abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, and then the addicted person is selfish. They can't even see what they're doing. So it's a continual cycle. So we get children who are watching this, but we want them to grow up to be well adjusted. We expect people, especially those who live on the other side, people who are of the status quo, they got a little money or social economic status is, and this is even for people who came from the struggle, who made witnesses. It's like we'll get to the other side and forget, how hard it is, and that it wasn't even easy for us. And then even that we made it, we still got a lot of mental and emotional heart weight to even overcome, right? But our children, we expecting them to be miracles, to be able to take the little to nothing and to be able to do great things with that. And that's horrible mentality, because damaged people, right, are starting further behind the starting line than someone who's actually in a well-adjusted environment, who's supported. They're already starting ahead of the person, and the race hasn't even started, just because they are in a well-adjusted environment where the people are socially aware, they're self-aware, they know how to articulate themselves, express themselves. These these ideas, this isn't just, I'm not just talking to say these things because it sounds good or it's education. I'm saying this because it's real, and we know it to be real. We know how we feel when we're in positive environments. We know when we take part in something that's actually trying to grow you. We know how we feel, and we know the effects. But we expect children who don't get the attention, we expect adults who don't get the resources to be totally different than what they are. And that's not going to happen without a miracle taking place, without something that can't be explained, that we have to look deep inside that individual and understand how were they able to overcome the circumstances? How were they able to be emotionally sound? And a lot of times we see that while they may be successful, they have emotional weight that they either numb to or have to deal with by themselves because they haven't been taught the skills. And that's what we see. People have not been taught the skills. They have not been taught the skills. So we operate at a level of emotional illness, not wellness, emotional illness. And we look around for answers in all the wrong places, and due to, a lot of us not coming from places of access. And and again, this is not just geared towards black people. This, poverty stretches across all races. And no child should be brought up in these situations, right? But at the end of the day, we have the society that we live in, so we have to learn how to deal with that, right? So, what does that look like? What is us dealing with society? One second, y'all. One second. What does us dealing with society look like? Like, what does that look like? What is that like? How do we start to change these things? One, we said understanding. When we said understanding, we get understanding through education. So understanding that poverty, and the things that we're going through, addiction, and people affected by addiction. Like, how does it happen? You know, um, why is it happening? Right? We want to be self-aware and socially aware. That's how we become socially, emotionally, well, right? So let's look at it. Let's look at it. If trauma is at the baseline of a lot of poverty and addiction, whether it may be, systemic trauma, lack of access, racism, classism, or is it familiar trauma, meaning coming from your family, your mother, your father, your brothers and sisters, uh, or if it's, exposure, right? Peer pressure, societal influence, right? So it's a lot of different factors that contribute to us living out these, lifestyles. And what we see is that we get even more traumatized people from these experiences. So, what I mean by that is, if you have a mom who didn't graduate from high school and reads at maybe an eighth grade education level, that's harmful because what you don't know, right? And another person has, somewhat power over you because they do have the knowledge. They can manipulate the situation. You can, it's a lot of harm that can happen. And our children witness this. We witness this in society, and what it creates is a cynical and negative, a dark feeling of, well, I won't even do that because I seen what happened to my cousin, or I know what happened to this person. So we have a lack of trust. Our boundaries, we don't have an identity within this world anymore because we've seen so much. So we don't even want to even step out and try it. We'll just stick to what we know, what's comfortable, what we've been raised in, even though we know it's not healthy for us, or it's not really the life that we really want to live. We'll still just go with what we know. Why? Because trauma is crippling. Trauma is paralyzing. That's why we have to stick with being emotionally available. We have to stick with being emotionally, like diving deep into ourselves. This is all about you looking into yourself. This is all about you trying to understand what you got going on and how the world you live in impacts you, right? So today we're talking about in poverty. So thinking about you, we're talking about addiction. Have you grown up? Did you grow up in poverty? Did you grow up, affected by somebody who uh, was addicted to something, maybe material or drugs or anything? Could have been gambling, could have been, spending money. Did you grow up witnessing those types of behaviors? Or do you yourself, do you participate in those behaviors? Are you a person who goes out and, you know, um, gambles your life away, or are you living in poverty right now? We want to talk about the impact of these things. Or if you've never been in poverty, if you've never did drugs or never seen addiction, or you may not know what addiction looks like, right? We want to help you understand. We want to bring you closer to understanding um, what's going on around you. We're building self awareness. We're building self awareness so that we can start to bridge the gap. There's a lot of gaps in our society, and it's due to lack of understanding. So we do a lot of blaming. We do a lot of victim blaming, especially. We do a lot of, you are in your situation because you put yourself in this situation. You're in this situation. All you had to do was pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you'll be all right. I worked hard. I got where I needed to be. You could work hard too and get where you need to be. We hear it all the time. Uh, and I'm not trying to, I know the country accent came out, but that's, it's coming south. You know what I'm saying? You hear it, but it's everywhere. You hear that mentality. And we got to understand that that's not a good mentality to have if we want to build emotionally healthy people, because we don't want to overlook people's emotions and experiences. We want to be open to their emotions and their experiences. We want to be able to bridge the gap. Life's not going to be perfect. Life's not going to be fair. But what we do need to do is to open our minds and our hearts and our ears. We need to do more observing and more listening than talking and expressing our opinions. Because the more we listen, the more we observe, the more understanding we will get. Right? And that's what we said. In order to fix a lot of these problems, we have to get the understanding. So we have to let people educate us to what's going on in their lives. So if they're poor and, you know, they're looking for access, better jobs, why are people fighting for better jobs? It's not just, people doing $15 an hour isn't just, I want to make $15 an hour because it'll look good for me. No, some people want to make $15 an hour because it literally could be the difference between them having a home and staying with somebody else. It could literally be the difference between their kids having food on the table consistently, and them having to go to a food share or a food bank, right? That's the difference between $15 an hour and someone making $7.25. And then we can't blame them, right, for their situation all the time because we all live our lives. You know, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but privilege is real. And it ain't just because you're a certain color, it could be because you have a certain lifestyle, you come from a certain family, socioeconomic status, and we can't blame other people for actions and things that they didn't. We're not asked to be born into this world. So yeah, I may have been born into a family that you know was working class and had access to certain things, but my cousin may have not been. But I can't be like I'm better than you because I made it to college or because I got a degree and I got a job and I got a business. I'm not better than that person because that person was born into a situation that they had no control over. So they had to play the cards that they was dealt. So if anything, I need to understand how can we help folks in those situations to be able to get access because people take credit for things that they didn't do. So we have a lot of people who come from well-off, families or well-off society, and they're taking credit for their other people's accomplishments. The fact that you came from a home that wasn't, you didn't do anything to deserve that. You were born into that. So we have to understand that everybody doesn't have access. Everybody isn't as lucky. We know that life isn't fair like that. So if anything, let's have empathy and compassion, so we don't continue the destruction. Because ultimately, when we don't give help, we continue the cycles. And what we said, what do we get? We said what we get from poverty. We get mental illness. We get high levels of crime. We get, lack of emotional availability, PTSD. What do we get? We get more addiction, right? So we have to see, like, how do we change the current status or the current state of living in America, in the world? But it's this type of topics have to be continually discussed. These type of topics within your family, like having that conversation. Why do we emotionally beat each other down? When did that start? Why are we okay with this circumstance? Whether it may be poverty, whether it may be pain, whether it may be criminal activity. Why are we okay with this? Having that conversation, becoming self-aware in the sense of, it's like, just taking that time out. It's not hard. It's like, sitting back, and I'm gonna keep saying, taking that pause for the cause, because we all on this journey. We all on this journey, trying to find ourselves, trying to take it to the next level. But we need help, and a lot of it takes practice too, because it took us all our lives. And I'm gonna say it again: it took us all our lives to be who we are, coming from the situations that we came from. Me, I was born into poverty. Yeah, I've had to overcome certain circumstances, certain things to become who I am. That has shaped my reality. But everybody's not like me. But I'm here for people. I'm here for you guys. Continue to put the information out there so you can have an emotionally well life. So you won't let poverty determine who you are and how you're going to live your life. So you don't let addiction shape your life, shape who you are and where you're going to be. Because if we just keep going through life with the attitude of it's okay, it is what it is, then we'll keep getting the results that we get. And we know it's not okay. Again, we trying to change the world for our children. We want a better world for our children. We want to have a world where, everybody is accepted for who they are. regardless of race, color, and creed, or gender, or sexuality. We want to build a world where you are not judged by, you know, preconceived notions of people who look like you, but you are actually judged by who you are. Like Martin Luther said, the content of your character. Like when we're biased and implicit bias, like we just don't automatically think because you came from poverty, you're not educated, or you don't want anything, or because you've been an addict that you a second class citizen. We have to really start to look at life and change these things. Change it. It's okay to not be okay with the world. You don't have to go along with the get along. I'm here to say, turn up, stand up. You don't got to go along with the get along, but it takes you educating yourself. It takes you putting yourself in a place of growth, understanding, right? Not just being complacent and comfortable and upset and hurt and sad, anxiety and depressed, and being okay with that. Because again, all of these emotions, all these things are like seasons. They come and they go. It's times when you're happy, it's times when you're sad. It's times where you're up on top of life, and it's times when you're not, right? So we have to be in control of ourselves. We have to be in control of our emotions. So no matter the season, no matter what's going on around us, whether we're being oppressed, whether you're witnessing something, you're able to be anchored emotionally, spiritually, right? Where you can know what you want, know how to get it, whether you got it or not, you're working towards it, and things are happening in your life to propel you towards that, right? So it's like the law of attraction. People say you think, therefore you are. So the thoughts that you put out there will attract a life, the life that you want. So if you think you won't, you won't. If you think you will, you will. So wherever they say, wherever you think, you're probably right. So that's where we have to start to change how we make our decisions, how we relate to each other, and understanding, how we got to this place of being poverty, addiction, racism, right? Lack of communication. You see what I'm saying? Our perceptions. This is what has put us in a state of emergency where, we don't connect. We continue the theme, which is destruction. We think life is going well, but when you're numb to the world and everything that the world has given to you, you're not in a good place. And I'm just saying that. There's a difference between being detached and being numb. You can have a feeling and no empathy and no sympathy and compassion, right? And still detach yourself, knowing that I this may be happening, but I know that life is very dynamic, that it's still positive, that good things can happen, versus being a person who's, you know, attached to the feeling of negativity, attached to the feelings of destruction. So it shaped your reality to the point where you don't believe things can go right. You don't believe that life can change, that you can fulfill your destiny or your calling. Because we all have a calling. We all have things that make us happy, that come naturally to us. Whether it's our job or if it's a hobby, you know, whether it's a side hustle or whether it's, what I'm saying, who you are as a person. We all have those things that, help us fulfill our destiny. But we have to be that. And we have to be okay with being that. We have to be someone that we love. And we have to understand what love is, understand what communication is, understanding what a real relationship looks like. Not just an intimate relationship, but just being connected to your fellow woman or man. What does it really mean to be empathetic? Because the longer that we allow for poverty, addiction, racism, and the lack of emotional wellness to persevere, we'll live in this society of destruction, of confusion, of chaos, where we see ourselves going in the wrong direction versus the right direction. And we can change. It's all about opening our minds and our hearts and having a conversation. Like I said, turn up, stand up, be the loudest person in the room. If it's not right, don't let it go. Don't let it slide. Stand up for what's right, what you believe in. Change the circumstances. Believe, believe, believe. Seeing is believing. Don't allow life to beat you down. Don't allow your circumstances to determine who you are and where you're going. A lot of us have done that. A lot of us have grown up in poverty, and all we see is poverty. All we see is poverty. We do not see the fact that we can change our circumstances. This is who we are, who we gonna be. We okay with being who we are, comfortable, right? But we're really not, because when you talk to those folks, they got a lot of issues going on amongst themselves. So we have to change that. We have to change that. We have to change the normalization of addictive behavior. We have to change those things. Have to speak up. Speak up. Don't be silent. Don't be complicit. Don't be silent. Speak up. Say what's right. Because you saying what's right ultimately builds you up. So you fighting a moral injury. You're fighting a moral injury by standing up for what's right. Because when you silent and you witness it, man, it changes you. Emotions change you. Trauma changes you. Your personality will be shaped by the things that you're going through, right? So we have to look at these things. That's why this episode is about poverty and addiction, and just talking about it, just outlining what is poverty. And we said it's the lack of education, the lack of resources, right? High crime, blight, meaning, it's dirty areas, addiction. We defined it, and it's not just to drugs. It could be, gambling. It could be material. It's a lot of different things that, addiction, how addiction rears itself, emotions, people, experiences, but all of these different things impact us from a child all the way to an adult, and it continues into our adulthood. So when we get the results that we get in our lives and they don't look like what we really want, or our relationships aren't good, or we're not able to keep the jobs that we want, or we're not have the success that we want, emotionally, spiritually, physically, we got to look at what's at the foundation of that. Is it the poverty? Are you still, emotionally poor? Are you still, physically poor? Or is it the addiction? Did you witness it to the point where it's morally corrupted you? Are you addicted still? Even though you let it go, are you still addicted emotionally? Right? So we got to look at what's the core of what's going on in our lives and start to address those things, start to change those things. If our parents was like this, we can be different. We can choose to be different. We can choose to change our path, our future. We can't change our past, but we can change our future. We can we can want better for ourselves through us understanding what we're going through, how it impacts us, right? So this episode it's been a great episode. What I'm saying? I really, think about the things that's going on, and what I'm saying, in life. And I just look at, how we are, building society. And I really think there's a need for the information that Soul of Us is putting out there. It's really a need for understanding and education, real education, because this is not what's taught in schools. We're not taught about how to understand how life impacts our emotions, and how our emotions ultimately determine who we're going to be in life. We're taught that the degree and the amount of money you have determines who you're going to be in life. We're not taught that your thoughts can shape your actions. We're not taught to find yourself and find who you are so that you can act on those things. We're not taught these things. So when we look at the level of emotional wellness in life, we are getting the results that we're getting because of the lack of education. We're all, emotionally poor. Like as a whole in society, there is emotional poverty going on. Lack of all types of expressions. So we hide, lie, sweep under the rug. We're numb. And this is a society that does not beget love and connection. So that's why mental illness, destruction, and chaos is running rampant. But, and I always say it's a little easier when we know, but it's easier when we're all on the same page. Teamwork make the dream work. So when we start to look at poverty and the effects of poverty and generational poverty, how we got to this point, and how all of these things are related, and how it impacts us on a soul level, on a personal level, we then can be advocates. We then can start to change our own behaviors, our own speech, and advocate for ourselves in a positive way. Making sure that, you know, making sure that the images and the messages that we align ourselves with, that we associate with, that we project, really are that of love and positivity, right? Because again, like in the previous episodes, when we are not on that page and we express the behaviors that we express, you know, that ultimately takes us in the wrong direction. So when it's negative, I don't care if you done hit somebody and you feel like you numb, that numbness is a reaction. And it's a reaction that can cause different things physically within your body. And that's what we see. I don't want to get too deep into the fact that your negative energy can really impact you in a physical way, right? But we got to look at that. Like when you don't witness somebody get beat up, and how you feel after that. When you don't witness somebody get robbed, how you feel. And if you don't have any feelings, that's another thing that we need to talk about. Why don't you have any feelings? These are the things. It's all about being curious and keeping that mind frame of understanding, empathy. How do I get better? First, by putting myself in the shoes of others, or just put myself in my own shoes. Like, what did I go through? Why am I where I'm at? And if you were born into poverty, what about poverty affected you? Start to do your own research so you know that what you are and how you are isn't necessarily your fault. Some of it is your environment. Some of it is the things that you had no control over. And you don't need to blame yourself. You don't need to be, uh, upset and doubtful of being able to change. You just change your environment, change what you ingest. Again, determine who it is that you want to be, why it is you want to be that person, what it looks like to be that person. And then we start to work towards it, right? So hopefully with this episode, we got a better understanding of how poverty impacts our emotional wellness, how addiction impacts our emotional wellness. And we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to bring it up. This is just an introduction. The first season, we just introduction to all of these topics. By next season, by next episode, part two, we're going to go really in depth into situations of poverty, of addiction, and how that contributed to certain outcomes, and how we can look into those outcomes and see how we can, change those things. It's all about change. It's all about change. Soul of Us is about bringing us together, changing our outcomes, which is it's not hard if we work together. It's not hard if there's an us. It's the we not me mentality. So we have to, pause for the cause, think about what we want, and start to make positive motion towards that. And, you know, we'll see how the impact of us being positive impacts our environment, that impacts the environment around them. And that's the thing. Just be you, be positive, and change. And you never know what you can cause to change, or to be renewed, or for education to occur. Like, it's a lot of different things that occur just by you changing your perspective and impacting your environment. That's how we change the world. That's how we change society. You changing you, and you impacting your environment. So standing tall against the negative, standing tall against the poverty, showing them, no, it's not about moving up and moving out. If I move up, I move back to help others move up the way that I moved up, to get out the way that I got out, to be able to come back and show them that we can change this, right? So again, Soul of Us coming to you every week. We want you to turn this information up, man. Like, real smack. Like, I want you guys, even if you feel like I don't make sense the whole time, that's cool. Like, take the little bits and pieces that do make sense. Research it. Look it up. Find out from understanding for yourself. Because mental health should be a priority. Emotional wellness should be a priority. Just as motivated as you are to become financially stable, you should be motivated to become emotionally stable. And just because you don't think or you don't know doesn't mean that it isn't true. And what I mean is, just because you don't think you emotionally, you don't think you not emotionally stable, you don't think you not emotionally well, or you don't know, doesn't mean that you're okay. We got to start to take the time, pause for the cause. Self care is not selfish. Now, there's a lot of people out here who are selfish, but we're talking about self-care. So you understanding who you are on the core principles of what makes you up, why you do what you do, why do you get the outcomes in your life that you do. So again, we're going to hone in on these topics each and every week. Again, so this week was poverty and addiction. And, we talked about, you know, uh, just the impacts of not, lack of access, and how that contributes to who we are as a people. And I keep reiterating this because repetition rules the mind. I want, even if a person catches a clip, I want them to know it's all about self-awareness, social awareness, making better decisions, building better relations, right? Being able to regulate yourself. And that's the mission. That's everything that I'm saying to us. Emotional well people. You are emotional well. Start to say it. I am emotional well. Start to project it. I am emotionally well. No matter what my circumstances is, I will exude emotional wellness. And if I need help, I'll search help. I'll seek out help. I'll be available. I'll be open. I'm just trying to help you guys with this podcast. Change your perspective. Change the way you interact with the world. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's a journey. It's going to take practice, practice, practice. It took us all our lives again to become who we are. The pain, the good things, the ups, the downs, all of those things contributed to who we are today. So in order for us to be well, to take it to another level, coming from the circumstances that we coming from, we have to start to see it. You have to start to say it. You have to want more. If you're depressed, anxiety filled, if you're addicted, we have to first acknowledge it. Acknowledge it. It's okay. We all human. We all have our nicks, our knacks. We all have our flaws, but we have to acknowledge, tell the truth, and gain understanding from that truth. Gain understanding from, our experiences, and that's why we define poverty. So we can understand how our experience of poverty shapes us, so that we can, when you see a person who is morally corrupt or spiritually corrupt or, emotionally, bankrupt. And then you look at their circumstances and you see, oh, that's what's going on. That's why they are. That level of empathy, then, right? And and that's what it takes. Well, we first got to extend it to ourselves. Again, it's self first. You got to fill your cup up and keep your cup full before we can fill anybody else's cup. And again, I keep saying it and I'm going to say it again. It's understanding. It's understanding. It's okay to be and go through what we go through because we were taught the wrong things from birth, whether it's society and the images that are put out there through social media, radio, movies, or if it's your own environment. We're not being taught what I'm talking about. Or if it's you are being taught, it's not being reinforced. And again, like I said, repetition rules the mind. So the more you see it, the more you're going to be it. So that's why I have to come every week with this information. I put it out every day because I want you guys I want it to be in your mind, your heart, and your soul. Let it change you. Let it grow you so that you can do again. You can impact your society, your environment, right? So you can find the motivation to overcome the circumstances that you're in, right? So that we can improve our emotional wellness because it starts with us as an individual and coming together. We lean on each other. And the more we lean on each other, the bigger we'll grow, the more of an impact we'll have, a positive impact. Because we see that right now we live in a very negatively charged environment. So I just wanted to get on here today, express the love, express, um, you know, just the plight of our people. The human race is, at an all-time low when it comes to emotional wellness. And it don't matter what color, creed, race you are. It doesn't matter what um, socioeconomic status. We're all going through emotional pain. We're all going through emotional trauma. And we got to put some respect on trauma's name because trauma shapes who you are. Trauma shapes your personality. It shapes how you interact with the world, how you see the world. And I'm going to continue to repeat that because it's that heavy. And until we start to take it seriously and not take it so lightly, we'll start to keep getting the outcomes that we get, you know. And that's right. We're all a huge ball of emotions. We are all a huge ball of emotions. And until we acknowledge that, we're going to continue to keep going down this road of destruction because we all started off as children, and when we came out the womb we experienced the world through emotion. We were happy, we were sad, we were angry, right? You witnessed so many things, whether you touched it and you see how it felt, or you tasted it and experienced something emotional. So now that we grow up, we stop living life through our emotions. We stop experiencing life through our emotions. No, we do. We're all still emotionally charged people, but life has put us in a place where sweep that under the rug. Don't talk about that. Hold on to that baggage. And that's what gets us into these maladaptive behaviors where we become morally injured. And we don't want to become morally injured. We don't want to. Again, we've defined that earlier episodes. Go back and check that episode out, the state of emergency. Because that moral injury is basically due to you witnessing the destruction over and over, right? You become the image that you witnessed. And it may not be due to your fault. It's just due to the way the world works and how, things trend. We see it all the time. A dance comes out, you might not even like the dance at first. Song comes out, you might not even like, you know, the song at first, right? But people keep listening to it. People keep dancing. Next thing you know, you're doing a dance. You're like, why am I doing this dance? Because it's that heavy. It's that heavy. And until we start to acknowledge that, we'll continue on the road that we're on. And it's that simple and just acknowledging it. We're not saying change overnight. We're not saying get rid of poverty. We're not saying get rid of addiction. Not saying that. What we're saying is acknowledge, acknowledge it. It's there. The trauma, the hurt, the pain. Acknowledge why. What got people there. So we're here every Friday. Check us out. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Google Podcasts. You can tap in on Unified Stance Family Services on Facebook. Uh, you know, just tap into the information. Because teacher lady said, bettering yourself over time. It's okay. No need to rush. Yes, no need to rush. We here. It's a journey. We're all on that journey, and in my opinion, this journey is about you know like like Dorothy, finding your purpose. But you have to go through your struggles. You have to go through your obstacles. And a part of you going through that is going to build you up and make you stronger. It's going to make you a better person. It's going to build your character. So that's why I say it's okay. Take your time, get the understanding, you know, apologize, live and love. And the more we do that, the better our lives will be. The better our relations will be. We'll be able to regulate ourselves better. So again, tap in Soul of Us podcast every Friday. Emotional wellness, trauma awareness, social emotional learning. These are our focuses. Whatever topic that we talk about or discuss, we're going to look at it through those lenses. How does it impact our level of emotional wellness, our emotional literacy? And then we're going to talk about tips and tools that we can use to, get that, together. We're here every Friday at between 6 and 7. Maybe sometimes we'll start at 6:30, depending, people are getting off work. We do go live on Instagram and Facebook. So, tap in on Facebook, Unified Stance Family Services, or you can tap in on Instagram at Soul of Us Podcast, or Soul of Unified Stance. Again, we're on all streaming on all platforms, and we love you. We love you. We appreciate you. Soul of Us website coming soon. We're offering mental health coaching, support groups, rites of passages, emotional wellness rites of passages. So look forward to those. Tap in. It's coming soon. We're just, giving you the information weekly on how to improve your emotional wellness and how to look at your life through different lenses, right? Our attitude determines our altitude, right? It's right, spreading love. And our attitude determines our altitude. So, a negative mind will never give us a positive life. So let's lean in. Let's tap in. Let's turn this information up. Spread this information. The more you talk about it, the more you'll become it. The more you live it, the more you'll become it. So again, you are what you think you are. Take that with you on this weekend. If you want more love in your life, be that love. Express that love. Y'all have a great weekend. Signing off. Please go like, share, follow. All of those good things. Have a great weekend. Everybody, if you got any questions, reach out. Unified Stance, Family Services, Soul of Us Podcast. Tap in with us next week. Peace and blessings, everyone.